Going to test. Hello, anybody watching the VOD? There we go. Anybody what? We did it. Alright. Okay. Final checks. That is the correct seed. 24724, 24724. Okay. Launching in 5. Good luck. Have fun, everybody. So how it's going to work is I'm going to cast this game. Philothanic is going to cast the next game. Well, with me. And then the one after that too. Alright, very warm welcome. 2B1 in this series. Well, it's not a series tournament. It's a all-encompassing Asteroid Belt Tournament. This game between Heisenberg, the Martian, Dermis, and Tesseract. I would go through the teams for you as well, but I'm not going to because offhand I don't know other than Dermis who is in what team. Dermis is in the Desperate Housewives team. In terms of other people, though, I'm not exactly sure. This map is kind of a little bit interesting. It's a very high glass price, which might dissuade people from going for the glass factions here. Scientific and Scavenger both available. Robotics and Nomad, though, use electronics instead, and I wonder if we're going to see a couple of robots as a consequence of that. Water's a little bit awkward. It's kind of up here. There's not a whole lot of ice. There's a little bit down here, but it's all going to be lows very soon indeed, and the Martian decides that the Nomad is what he wants to go. So one up in the silicon in the middle and one down in the bottom right hand corner with the high aluminium tile as well. Dermis founding a robot, crushing a little bit of iron there as well. What is this all about? That seems like a bug to me. Okay. Never mind. Let's pretend that didn't happen. So Tesseract actually went down second as well with the remote steal, which is interesting. Not a whole lot that can punish him for that, but there are pirates, so any pirates sort of here or here would be really annoying for Tesseract to deal with, and that is a possibility in this early game. There is enough money to be made, perhaps, to make that possible. Dermis getting to HQ2 first with the robot. Gets his metal mine and steel mill combo, and also a high aluminum tile in the north as well, along with a uranium tile, which is an interesting choice. Power might be a factor at some point, especially with this colony. 1.4 power a second with the garages and the offices as well. Martian also getting to HQ2, so he's just got that aluminum claim down there. Also a bit of glass, so he's going to go into glass quite early, which does seem quite sensible. As a Nomad, you are very, very well placed to do that. Going to sell that down immediately. It's going to be an awful lot of cash that he's going to get. Tesseract gets himself all of this life support, so all of these life support claims. But again, without that steel, doesn't have a whole lot of money to put anything down. Going to be able maybe to put a couple of farms down, a couple of reactors down, but again, they're not enormously profitable right now. It's a little bit of a slow start for Tesseract. Dermis, though, heading on up. Got his electronics bought for the HQ3 upgrade, just needs a little bit more of the aluminum and a little bit more of the steel as well. He's making a lot of steel right now. Power surge here would be painful, but nobody going for that so far. Tesseract deciding as well that rather than the fourth life support tile, he just wants a single low aluminum tile, which is a little bit interesting. So Dermis putting the goon down, and again, this goon isn't going to be doing a whole lot against a power surge. You're not going to target the middle there, so it's going to knock 4 tiles out of 5, but looks like he's going to get away with it for the time being. No one in power still. It's climbed up to 140. That is a long way up. Heisenberg in the north making food, and again, it's A going to cut into Tesseract's food profits, and B isn't going to do an awful lot. Free tile here, which is kind of interesting. 20k for this seems entirely reasonable. Heisenberg's a long way from it, though. He's actually not, because he's a Nomad. Nomad's pretty close to it.
A nomadic HQ has been upgraded.
The Martian upgrading first of all then to HQ3. Getting another silicon quarry down. And Dermis now has got his little barricade of goon squads going. So no steel shutdown for him. Although steel now not enormously profitable, and that power situation is getting a little bit concerning for some of our players. The Martian is the first one into nuclear plants. Does have a goon for one of them, although this isn't the best placing of the goon. He could really have done with these being in a line and him having a goon in the middle one. That would have made it much more sensible, or much less vulnerable. Having said that though, he's going to be making power money very shortly indeed. That's going to be really nice for him. Does get the third nuclear plant up, and now is making a lot of power money. 1,300 a second of power money. That is going to do very nicely indeed for him. This might be an overcommitment. More nuclear plants going down. 2 more, I think. I guess the thinking is that he's fairly sure that some of them are going to be shut down, and there is the power surge that comes down finally from Tesseract to shut down 2 of that triangle. But he does now have these other 2 in the middle of the map that are going to be doing some very nice things. Everything else gets shut down though. That silicon gets shut down. Heisenberg deciding the Martian really can't be doing with that right now because of all of this power money that he's going to be making. And again, another power surge comes down on the nuclear plants. He did make himself a target with that, but that's a lot of resources that's gone into shutting down the Martian at this point in the game, and still they've not managed to shut down the power money that he is making. So really good work from him. Dermis did commit into these 2 nuclear plants. They're not honestly going to do a whole lot though at this point, and there's a third one hiding away here as well. But again, not going to be able to pay through that debt. The only person to make any money from the power situation was the Martian, and he's in quite a good position now to push on, although this silicon shutdown here is going to hurt him a lot when it comes to upgrades. It's a lot of silicon to come in, and really has no means of getting it right now. Pleasure Dome auction is very well timed. It's going to be a good Pleasure Dome, although given the HQs on the map, it's not going to be that good. But with the power of, or with the price of power so low, I think it'll be quite attractive for somebody. And the Martian can certainly afford the debt. So can Tesseract, actually. Tesseract on the down low there was actually making power money too. It's Dermis who takes the Pleasure Dome auction. Gets to that HQ4. It's going to get that 2 silicon, or the double silicon, down as well. I wonder if the Martian is going to be able to protect these silicon claims. They are quite vulnerable. Silicon, very valuable. Only going to get more valuable as well. There's a lot of demand for it between the 2 nomads and the glass that Tesseract is going to need. There's a high glass price as well, so that's going to feed into silicon demand too. Heisenberg running the optimization center early on, going to get that one down. Might be quite nice for him. He's going to be able to afford to use that. It's going to stick him at HQ3 for a while longer, but even so, it's not going to be bad. Some reactors coming down for the Martian. Although again, this water really is the thing to be going for here. Water has suddenly gotten extremely valuable, and that's not particularly artificial either. The Martian is the one with the most water in the game, but honestly the person right now in the best position, I think, is going to be Dermis. He's going for liquid batteries, and Heisenberg is all over that. He knew exactly what was up there. Doesn't have it spied out. No spies in the game, in fact, but obviously it was spotted that it was not a nuclear plant, and Heisenberg blowing it up. Going to be quite costly for Dermis. And yeah, Heisenberg using this water advantage, gets to that HQ4, is bringing in an awful lot of water in this north. It's auto selling it down right now, so it just needs the cash from that. Dermis, I wonder if he's going to be able to protect this patent lab. I don't think he is, and I wonder if Heisenberg, given that he knows about it, is going to be tempted to once again try and shut it down. In terms of patents, 3 people with patent labs so far. There's the Martian going for virtual reality. Everyone's going to get what they want. Dermis going for liquid batteries. Tesseract instead going for slant drilling. Slant drilling is going to be quite nice for him. It's going to extend his patch of life support into something that's actually quite useful, rather than just the 4 tiles that he did have. Dermis, though, first to HQ5. Actually going to post in the Stardock channel to tell people about this this stream as well. Extra claim available for auction. Again, the Martian in a position where he can afford the debt, although again, power getting up there, and the Martian is in power. It's going to get shut down, that water getting shut down, but slant drilling coming online very, very soon for Tesseract. Again, we'll extend this bit of life support. Goes for a nuclear plant there instead. I guess the power situation really has climbed to the point where it really needs to be addressed. The Martian again with that 28k claim, quite an expensive claim, but he's going to chew through that debt and no problem at all. He basically paid cash for that claim. And what was that? Dermis getting the dynamite, getting something dynamited. Was that a solar panel? Don't actually know what that was. Anyway, virtual reality goes to the Martian. Does have that pleasure dome. It's going to be quite nice for him. Liquid batteries though for Dermis, which is going to matter a lot with these solar panels up.
Our methods continue to improve.
So DT looks like he's going to win that game on the other stream, which is again good for the Desperate Housewives team. Dermis looking to make that a double right now in this opening round of games. Heisenberg again put that optimization center down. Hasn't been using it for a while because chems are really, really expensive. Nobody really in a position to make them either. They're not very profitable with the price of carbon and the price of fuel being so high. Might see him through to the late game with an advantage though. So,
Optimization routine successful.
again, Dermis in quite a good position here, but Heisenberg did put that optimization center down, and that just might be the difference here. Going for some iron optimizations, which... Where is he putting iron mines down? He's going for the high and the medium iron mine. Doesn't have teleportation to back this up, so it's going to be a long time before that money comes in. And again, Dermis is putting a lot of iron down right now as well. Transparent aluminum is being contested here. The Martian's going to get it though. Tesseract 5 seconds away from it.
Congratulations.
I'm not sure how useful it's going to be. Is it an off-world game? It might be an off-world game. Prices on-world not that high. Prices off-world getting up there. $600 food launch is pretty good. So So I wonder if the Martian is going to be tempted to put down an off-world with that transparent aluminum pickup. Would be a bold play. We've seen a few of those in this tournament so far. Tesseract has a lot of money, but again, doesn't have the HQ5 upgrade just yet. So Tesseract, again, going for the financial instruments. A couple of people going into quite a significant amount of debt. Dermis being the highest amount of debt in the game, right, 120,000. So financial instruments with some amount of value, potentially. Dermis now has also been running the optimization center for a little bit. He's going to be producing those chems and optimizing them as well. Very profitable indeed. Doesn't have the carbon to support them though, so that might just end up benefiting the person who's producing carbon. That person is Heisenberg. Heisenberg also going into chems now. For Dermis, that is an unsustainable market. He might not need it to be sustained for that long though. That's one of the crucial things. And yeah, the Martian deciding with that transparent aluminum pickup, going to go into the off-world market. And as I said before, this off-world market is pretty good. It's quite expensive in terms of silicon. 600 silicon he needed to do that. So just from that perspective, it was quite expensive. But again, he will be making money from that off-world. Heisenberg deciding to go into an off-world as well. Very interestingly, again, he has a hologram too. Dermis though, Dermis investing in stock rather than off-worlds. He is going to go into Heisenberg. I wonder if he knows or suspects about these off-world markets, or just sees Heisenberg as a really valuable target because of all of his optimizations. You can see them here. He's spread very thin across the board with optimizations, very efficient. He's just going into Heisenberg, who couldn't really defend himself because he was building this off-world market, and that was the key there. Now prices looking a little bit closer to what we would expect from series. Claim auction coming down as well. Tesseract in his corner is done alright for himself. Got a couple of very nice patterns. Got the slant drilling and the teleportation. Is able to use these carbon tiles for chem refineries. But again, that's running out of value now, and he doesn't have any optimizations with which he can really power through into the late game. Heisenberg does. Dermis does as well now. The Martian doesn't have optimizations, but he does have this off-world market. It is going to be very, very nice for him. But again, just falling behind a little bit in cash. Is now going into an optimization center of his own as Dermis builds a second one. Usually on series, the late game is the time of the optimizations. Heisenberg's had his running for a long time, even though he's only invested in one. Look at all these optimizations that he's got. But the power situation and the debt situation for Heisenberg is becoming an emergency. We can see on the black market, he has cooked the books twice, but I don't know how much value that's going to have. Dermis going into two different people here. This is very brave, and he's even selling out of his... In fact, he's going to three different people. Going to sell out of his own stock, is he, to try and get a buy done? Maybe on Heisenberg. Solar panel gets blown up by Tesseract. That's not going to hurt too much. And yeah, something that Heptopus wants Heisenberg to win, obviously, but yeah, there's not a whole lot of options for him on the black market. Dermis seems to be in a really strong position here. Could just sell out of his own stock and kill Heisenberg anytime he wants to. Going into those electronics as well, which suddenly have turned into a fairly profitable market. Again, the carbon situation is a big problem for him. For Dermis, that is. He can probably transition out of chems fairly soon to deal with that. But again, Heisenberg not in power, and Dermis actually has the cash to kill Heisenberg whenever he wants to. He's going to do that right now. And Heisenberg, just like that, with all of that money that he was making, with all of that money he had in his bank account, not able to do anything with it. Dermis, bold play, selling out of his own stock, inviting Tesseract in. Tesseract, again, might not be a huge threat in the late game, even though he's a scientist, even though he's got these slant drilling teleportation double act. He doesn't have many optimizations. He only has the carbon right now. He's making a lot of carbon. Is that going to be enough? Again, Nuke's still at 3k, which is a big surprise given how expensive carbon and silicon have been for basically this whole game. Even uranium, aluminum getting up there now, both of them. And yeah, I think Heisenberg not going into power was probably the thing that killed him. Meanwhile, the Martian as well. The Martian has a ton of money right now. Really a lot of money. He's making a lot as well from these off-world markets. Got 2 of them now. Wonder if anybody knows about them. It doesn't seem like they do. So Dermis with the really high stock price, but Tesseract with the cash lead right now. They probably need, in fact they do need, an equivalent amount of money to kill the other person, but Dermis has, I think, an income advantage, has those optimizations, has the subsidiary as well. It's a pretty good subsidiary. It's Heisenberg making a lot of money with that off-world market. Meanwhile, the Martian has 2 off-world markets, and again launching very valuable food, which he's also making. Is now in optimizations, getting those water optimizations as quickly as he can. He's only got the 2 solar condensers to use with that though.
Successful off-world shipment. Make room for the profits.
And again, the Martian just getting himself cash. He might be able to use in the late game to kill somebody, but he needs a lot of cash. He's going to need a lot. Particularly if Dermis wins this battle, he's going to need something like $2 million to be able to compete with Dermis. And I don't think he has that earnings potential. I think this one might be Dermis's. It's a fairly close battle between him and Tesseract, but again, this sub-income, 2k a second now. So much money. Pleasure Dome goes down.
Optimization routine
That was the Martian. And Dermis, in fact, selling out of the Martian. That might be good news for him, but again, he's just going to need so much money. Tesseract now vulnerable to Dermis. Dermis does have the cash. He's going to have to complete this Pleasure Dome, but not going to matter. Down goes Dermis. And the Martian is staring at a big pile of cash that he needs. He's got a big pile of cash, but he needs an even bigger one. He needs 1.7 million to end this game right now. He only has the 0.7. So basically he needs $1 million. Dermis only needs, what, 600,000 by comparison? He's got 3k a second coming in from his sub-income. He's got all of these optimizations. It's really looking like this 2v1 game is going to go to Dermis, barring something quite extraordinary happening. I don't think anything extraordinary is going to happen. I think the Martian is going to come up quite some way short here. And Dermis now beginning the process of buying into the Martian. Could even sell out of himself if he wanted to, but instead the Martian having to buy Dermis' stock the hard way. Should have done it earlier, but really doesn't make any difference. Dermis now only 400,000 short, and he's making so much more money with these 2 very valuable subsidiaries than the Martian, who still needs $1 million. That money has not gone down. The money he needs has not gone down, but Dermis only now needs another 200,000 to end this game. So DT winning on the Stardock stream, Dermis winning on this stream. A very good start for the Desperate Housewives team. Full disclosure, I am on the Desperate Housewives team. So I'm pretty happy about this. In any case, very well played, Dermis. He has the money now, and he hits the red button. That is game 2B1. Over to the Desperate Housewives team. Dermis with his tournament debut, and it ends in a win on series for a robot that really did well with those early buys. That early buy on Heisenberg, that was the key move. Heisenberg going into the off-world market, going into the optimizations, but not defending himself and accruing a ton of debt, made him a really, really valuable target. Dermis going into that and ending the game thereafter. So that's that game. We're a bit behind schedule, so I'm not going to pour over the charts and graphs too much, other than to show the screens very quickly again. All these optimizations for Dermis. A few for Heisenberg as well. He had that optimization center running a long time, but again, not quite able with all of those investments to keep himself alive. And here are the numbers. I'm just mousing over so we can screenshot if necessary. And that's game 2B1. Well played, Dermis. More points for Desperate Housewives. Alright. So I gather Philothanic is still away. So I guess I'm going to host the next game too. I don't know which game it's going to be. The Stardock stream is on 2C2 by the looks of things. So probably what I will do is I will follow Dermis to 2D2 and cast that game as well. That's the wrong map. So, just to keep you up to date with those other games, Rahi won 2C1, so the yellow team gets a win there. That's the team Boosted Pleasure Dome, so they are up to 13 now. They were well ahead after week 1. And Hexapus winning the 2A1 game on IO, so the blue team, the A team, are getting, they get their 3rd point on the board from that one. Just check we have all the players that we need. Andreas, Blues, Dermis, Adderfield. Alright, so those guys have started, so I'm going to start as well. Let's check everything's right. Masquerade, yeah, everything's default. It's on Mars, which it needed to be. Alright, very warm welcome. Game 2, I've forgotten the letter already. 2D2 this one is. On Mars between Blues, Andreas G, Dermis and Adderfield. We just saw a game on series in which Dermis was victorious against 3 other players. Now though, he's up against Blues. Blues is coming off a defeat to Death Tacticus in the other game. In one of the other games, rather, of the last round. This is an interesting map as well. We don't have... What don't we have? We don't have any nomads on this map. We don't also have any scavengers. So despite... Well, I mean, there's not great carbon anyway. So scavengers were pretty unlikely. Also nukes. So it's going to be either expansive, robotic, or scientist, assuming no one is brave enough to go elite. I don't think this is the map for it, and I basically don't think there's any Mars map for it. It's just not a very good faction on anything other than IO. Ticks all the way down to 0. 3 expansives. Very interesting. So Adderfield deciding that the northern expansive is the thing he wants to do. Blue's going for a science spot that doesn't appear to have any steel. That is very brave from Blues. I wonder what his plan is. Andreas going into 2 aluminum mines and an iron mine as well. So Andreas not producing any steel either to begin with in this game. He's almost got his bought up though. So that will be good for him. Adderfield again producing all of the iron that he possibly can. And also some aluminum. Can upgrade basically whenever he wants to. Dermis though with the early HQ2 upgrade. For a long range carbon claim early on, which is interesting. I guess that's to support chem production. I would be surprised if these last 2 claims for Dermis are not chems, because that would make sense given that long-range carbon claim at HQ1. Adderfield into glass immediately, which again is a very, very good market. Andreas deciding that he needs to be producing steel, which he does. Dermis already has those steel mills down, and so does Adderfield. So again, Adderfield with that glass production going to be very good. Blues, very interesting, isn't it? He's just gone for those 3 farms. Farms very good to begin with, but again he had to pay a lot of glass for those farms. So not all that profitable in the short term, and yeah, Dermis does indeed go for those 2 chem refineries right off the bat. Doesn't have them protected right now. That would be a tempting target for somebody who will want to shut that down. Blues again. Blues decides that he's going to go for those 2 chem refineries as well. Chems and glass, both excellent markets right now. Adderfield is going to drive that silicon price high, and Blues is collecting silicon. I wonder if he saw that. I wonder if he realized that the thing to be doing was to be putting a claim into silicon. So he is going to be collecting quite a lot of that, making a lot of money from those chems. Adderfield with that glass, again, that is making good money right now. There was a power surge on Dermis' chems from Blues, which makes sense. Get out of my market, he says. And Dermis, a little bit late on that one. Need to be gooning that before the power surge comes down. Adderfield though, 27k in cash. Blues has a lot of cash as well. Although notably what he doesn't have is any steel at all. It's an interesting decision. And yeah, he's driving that price of silicon up. Realizes that Adderfield is going to be really pushing the price of silicon up, consuming a lot without producing any. And yeah, Adderfield scraps out of those steel mills, or out of those glass kilns rather, which he needed to, and instead goes into 3 farms. And he does have the adjacent water to support that if he needs it. Pleasure Dome tile. This is a very good Pleasure Dome tile, and it's a very good Pleasure Dome map. So this one will go for a lot of money, I would imagine. Adderfield deciding 28 is reasonable. I agree with him. I think it is reasonable. So Adderfield can upgrade pretty much whenever he wants to. Andreas deciding to pull the trigger first. Blue's getting a lot of money, but again, doesn't have any steel. He's content with his lot for the time being, just producing chems. Wonder if he's going to be tempted to upgrade and go into glass. I would imagine that seems to be the transition that he would like to make with the silicon coming in. So Dermis to HQ3 needs to decide what to do with those claims. I see a third chem refinery? I wonder if we are. And maybe some life support, something like that. Dust storm on its way.
Scientific HQ has been upgraded.
And Blues does pull the trigger on that upgrade.
An expansive HQ has
As
been
I said, I would be surprised. 2 steel mills. So he's doing things the old-fashioned way, the non-scientific ways, bringing in iron and bringing in silicon from further afield. And again, I just wonder if we're going to see some glass as well. There's a shutdown on his farms, which is going to be a little bit painful for him. He is leading this game right now, though, in terms of cash at least.
The black market is open for business.
Dermis has gone into 3 wind turbines with the dust storm coming. Very, very well timed. Did have the carbon to support that as well, so didn't have to pay too much for it. He's going to be chewing through that debt very, very quickly indeed. Blues has no such provision for power. And you can see now 1300 a second of this debt coming down. The wind turbine on the end being mutinied away by Blues. Dermis takes it right back. Blues not going to have another cooldown for 30 seconds or so. So he's losing, what, 800 a second from this debt. The fuel is getting a little bit high for him. He's shipping a lot in from elsewhere. But he does now have reactors online as well. So Dermis might be in a very good position because of this power play, although power just falling through the floor right now. Andreas going into a trio of wind turbines as well. So didn't have those protected, which is a brave decision.
Such a wonderful plot of land.
Blues with the slowdown strike, that might be, feels a little bit late to me. Although he's about to be making power money, so maybe it's not late.
Congratulations.
And the water tile going to Dermis for 20k. It's debt that he can afford, and he's not now going to be making any power money, especially with that slowdown strike, so abandons that, just decides to invest in resources instead, which does make perfect sense. Blues switching out of farms and into reactors during this dust storm. Maybe would have liked to have seen that a little tiny bit sooner. Dermis, though, first to HQ4. Off-world price is not huge as well, so there is a limited amount of money to be made off-world, so those claims for the expansive players are going to be quite valuable later on in the game. And this claim in particular, this Pleasure Dome for Adderfield, going to be doing work for him. Especially now that power has fallen all the way through the floor. That's a little bit of the issue with these wind turbines. Both Dermis and Andreas investing in all of those wind... Although Andreas does have aluminum miles that he can turn them into instead, if necessary. So the EMP bounces on Dermis. And he's going to get a free EMP out of that. I would imagine that Andreas is not going to be the target. Adderfield has a lot of money. The others need to be very worried about him before upgrading. And Dermis actually is looking a little bit vulnerable right now. Not enough cash to defend himself. Blues getting a little bit antsy, deciding he needs to buy his stock first before he gets to that HQ4 upgrade. Although again, no steel at all for Blues right now. It's going to be a while before he can get to that HQ4 upgrade. There's not much steel to be going around in this game. Andreas only in 2, Dermis only in 2, and Adderfield only in 2. So the price of steel is going to stay high for a while longer yet. Everyone defending themselves. Andreas can upgrade almost whenever he wants to. Decides not to for the time being. Andreas and Adderfield pull the trigger absolutely at the same time. So Adderfield upgraded, or buying his own stock all the way to 5 before he upgrades. Andreas deciding he only needs 4. EMP coming down on Adderfield stuff. That's most of what's making him money, that farm trio and the water. That's really going to hurt him. It's only the steel apart from that. It's an interesting auction. A patent lab ready-made. Price of chems is quite high, so it's not going to be immediately useful. Except maybe to Blues, who has a lot of chems, although it's still expensive. The opportunity cost of selling it down is quite high. This is an interesting tile here, though. A hacker array for Blues. Wondering what he's planning to do with that. I wonder whether that'll be a silicon play or whether that'll be a chem play. Nobody else really making very much silicon. Andreas is breaking even right now in silicon because he's making glass as well. Where is he making glass? Oh, hang on, I'm looking at Dermis. That's why Dermis is making glass and bringing in silicon. As I said, only 2 a second. Does have a bunch next to him. But Blues is going to go for electronics instead. That's interesting. So the surplus on electronics means that suddenly that is a valuable target to hack. No one else has any electronics. Dermis now has 2 hacker arrays, which is an interesting choice. Working on both carbon scrubbing and superconductor. Carbon scrubbing will be of questionable value for him. Going to that teleportation as well.
The black market is open for business.
And that pleasure dome is going to be fought over by these guys for a while, I think. Adderfield deciding he's just going to take that one back. Had a mutiny stored up. Blues getting to HQ4. Again, the no steel scientist. Really interesting play from Blues. It's not really viable for anyone to make steel if they don't have supporting iron either, so Blues really struggling. He's just got this single steel mill. Not going to be great for him. And yeah, he's actually going to surplus steel, which again, really interesting move. It's not only going to benefit him either, it's going to benefit a bunch of other people too. Adderfield did buy up some electronics. Just going to take advantage of that shortage a little bit. Blues into a patent lab, and he's going for teleportation as well. He's going to be disappointed though, because it's just gone to Dermis. Also going to be in superconductor, so Dermis, with all of this shipping and the high cost of fuel, going to be benefiting a lot from this teleportation. Blues is going to be disappointed that he's not going to get that. He's going to try for slant drilling instead. But again, right now, Dermis in superconductor. Dermis also going for thinking machines, which I think he's going to get. Another pleasure dome being auctioned. The game realizing that that's a really valuable commodity, this game. Everyone's debt getting pretty high as well. I imagine that's partly a result of the dust storm and the food shortages, or the relative food shortage, not an actual shortage, but the general shortage. Dermis, wow, this is a lot of money for a pleasure dome, isn't it? 48,000. It is a ready-built pleasure dome, so it is immediately going to be making money for him. Adderfield does have virtual reality as well, so that was valuable. Andreas to HQ5, though. Needs to find some way to make money. He's going to go into a 3rd steel mill without supporting iron. Yeah, it's going to be difficult to sustain. Also in a bunch of glass, and without really any supporting silicon right now as well. This one is off, or it was off, it's now no longer off, but still doesn't have enough to cover himself. Blues does get slant drilling. Might be his way back into this game. Dermis and Adderfield both pulling the trigger on the HQ5 upgrades. Unfortunate timing on Dermis' solar panels, although superconductor will make that a little bit more comfortable for him. High demand for patents this game. 3 patent labs currently sitting idle though. Blues again with the surplus on steel. That was a natural short as well. Adderfield also going to be in a hacker array very soon. And yeah, Blues surplus not really doing anything. It's also going to be surplusing power, but a little bit after the fact, and Blues really in danger of falling out of this game right now. Dermis is going to buy into him. Very, very dangerous to be in that amount of debt and that far behind. And again, no real way to make steel for Blues. It's really painful for him at the moment. He's only got the one steel mill. Needs a huge amount of money to upgrade. 128,000 isn't anywhere near that right now. So it might be that Blues falls this game. Adderfield has a lot of money. He's going to be in a position to make food. Does have the optimization center as well building. The first one of this game. I'm surprised we didn't see one sooner, to be honest. So again, Dermis with that early aggression, but Adderfield really looking to take advantage, buying those 2 shares in Dermis 2. Might need to defend himself as well, though. Andreas has defended himself all the way, so the only target now for anyone just wanting to pick up cheap stock is Adderfield. And I guess that the only person who is looking to pick up cheap stock would be Andreas. EMP coming down from Blues. Blues might just be resigned to his fate here. He's going to try and stall out for as long as he can, make it painful for him to be bought. Adderfield now with 3 pleasure domes with that mutiny. EMP coming down from Dermis. But Adderfield looks like he's in the position really to be thinking about winning this game. I think he does need to defend his own stock though. That might be the weakness. Again, Offworld's not particularly good. Chem is the launch right now, but it's only 27,000. And with the difficulties people are having getting steel this game, that is going to be a big deal for a lot of people. Adderfield, though, is out of steel altogether. Dermis is making quite a bit, but again, he doesn't have... He does actually have the iron to support it now. He's got the 2 iron mines. Everyone basically at the same time deciding to go into an optimization center. Adderfield was first to pull the trigger, but only barely. Blues is getting himself very slowly, getting himself enough steel to upgrade, but he doesn't have any aluminum either, and that's really expensive too. Blues might just be in a bunch of trouble. If he possibly can upgrade, he probably should. Electronic shortage, was that from Adderfield? Yep, it was from Adderfield. And Dermis deciding the time is now for him to go into Adderfield as well. Blues does get to HQ 5. Doesn't really lose anything by doing that, but he is in that D level of debt. He took a large debt tick there. Dermis also in debt though. Also in nearly 200,000 of debt. Does have these 2 solar panels. Needs to keep them online if at all possible. And maybe even supplement them if necessary as well. Maybe taking these chems out of the equation. Chems now no longer profitable for Dermis. Adderfield with 4 pleasure domes. 4 pleasure domes. Look at them. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 of them are mutinied. But even so, he's going to be making a pretty penny from them. So buying into Dermis, he's a little bit away still from being able to kill Dermis, but not honestly that far away. 3 more solar panels coming up. He did get out of those chems and into solar panels to Dermis. Meanwhile, Andreas, he did get EMP'd out just now, but he's kind of in the corner, just working away slowly. Does have the optimizations coming in very slowly as well. Making some money, has got himself defended all the way, but it's difficult to see him really having an impact unless he invests a little bit more heavily into that late game.
Congratulations.
Geothermal borehole isn't going to mean very much at all. Dermis now chewing through his debt very, very quickly indeed, being able to make that power with that superconductor, all of these solar panels doing a lot of work. Blues somehow has recovered. Not exactly sure how. 2k pirates for these steel. These pirates should have been used before now for this steel for sure. Would have been absolutely no problem for somebody to just plonk some pirates down with the shipment in the air and just take all of that lovely steel away. Dermis and Adderfield, though, this is the battle, and you would think probably that whoever wins this battle is going to be winning the game. Dermis close to making power money until night hit, and all of a sudden his solar panels don't work anymore. Andreas getting aggressive against Blues, though. Blues returning the favour with a power surge on the electronics and the optimization center. Dermis now with a significant income lead over Adderfield. I wonder why that is. His food really isn't making him much money anymore. His electronics was making him a little bit of money, but he doesn't have it optimized. And it also just got shut down by Dermis. Also, with this power price, look at this power price climbing so high, and Dermis has so much power production. Surely there's going to be some sort of freeze coming up against some of this. None of it's protected. Trace aluminum now for Adderfield as well. Not able to use that resource, and now suddenly it comes online and he's making 3,000 a second. Taking 3,000 a second out of that debt. The power price only falling slowly. Andreas isn't actually very far away from completing the buy on Blues either. But Dermis, you have to feel, with all of this power money that he's going to be making, there is the freeze finally. That needed to happen a long time ago. Finally, Adderfield does manage to find that power surge. That might just save him in the short term. But again, he's going to have it optimized very soon as well. Mutiny on the wind turbine to take at least some of that power production away. And he's now almost to the point where he's going to be making a bit more power money. Blues also in power, has those two solar panels, has them optimized too. Also has these two solar panels that were water tiles, but are no longer. So Andreas, very close to be able to pull the trigger on this buy against Blues. Although Blues' stock price appreciating very rapidly given that he's paying off all of this debt. Dermis now making power money though, and is only 100,000 away from being able to kill Adderfield, which he will need to do. Suddenly off-worlds as well. Suddenly off-worlds. 700 food launch. Nearly 50,000 profit. And there's the power shortage too. Was that anyone? Don't know if that was a random or whether that was Adderfield playing with the price of power. He's just put a bunch of power online, so it might well have been Adderfield. But in any case, that also benefits Dermis, or at least it will. As soon as night comes around, or as soon as day comes around again. Very close to being able to pull the trigger on this buy. He's almost at 100%, but he is optimizing at the same time, so he's spending quite a lot of money on these optimizations. And that's hampering his ability to buy Adderfield, which might not be a huge problem. Might need those optimizations. Is now at 100%, is going to have the red button really soon. And from then on, he's going to have all of his own stock. There it is. So Dermis takes that one. Andreas struggling to get to the buy on Blues. Blues is, I think, just buying into Andreas, and I think he plans to sell out as soon as he gets to 100%. Just to hurt Andreas' chances of winning the game. Dermis now in a very strong position. I think we're going to see him take his second win of the day in 2 games.
The engineers have advanced our production.
Andreas so close, just needs to get to that buy. Blues paying off all of his debt as well to try and appreciate his stock price enough. Does finally get it done. So Andreas now versus Dermis. That is the battle. Who is going to be making more money as a subsidiary? Well, right now Adderfield's not making a whole lot because of all of this $1 power that his subsidiary is making. But again, Dermis does have some optimizations. Is optimizing chems, has all of these optimizations up here. Might be too late for off-worlds, even though off-worlds now are certainly worth building. They're quite expensive, but they are quite valuable as well. Although another point is that nobody is making steel right now in this whole game. So that is going to be expensive steel. Dermis going into Andreas. There's a slowdown strike coming down. It was an expensive slowdown strike though. Look how good these chems are, even with the slowdown strike. 200 a second. Andreas likewise making chems. I think Dermis probably has this. Adderfield now making valuable reactors and food, and putting valuable reactors and farms up. Also building an off-world. So you're going to lose that income temporarily. But in the long term, I don't know whether that'll pay for itself. Probably won't pay for itself, this off-world. It's probably bad for Dermis that Adderfield decided to build this off-world, or his subsidiary did. Yeah, I think it's going to be Dermis. Although again, this subsidiary Blues is winning the subsidiary battle right now. And his off-worlds are very expensive. Blues' off-world's very expensive. Almost 200k you need to build an off-world, which might be a blessing for Andreas. He's not going to be burdened with a subsidiary that's building an off-world. Adderfield, meanwhile, just about to finish his off-world. But still, Dermis has the lead. Has a cash lead. He's able to get that 4th stock. He's pretty close to getting that 5th stock as well in terms of optimizations. Dermis has the edge. Again, none of our players building an off-world, of course, because it would be too big an investment at this point, and no one's producing steel. Still no one's producing steel. They really should be at this point as well. They have big iron surpluses. Steel is an incredible market, particularly for Dermis, who has it optimized.
Our methods continue to improve.
But again, this glass is just making so much money. You see with the X button right here, all of this money that Dermis is making. Compare that to Andreas G. Many, many fewer big numbers there than there are over here. 500s and 300s and 400s and even the 200s here. Whereas all Andreas has, 180, 160, a couple of 200s over here. There's a very valuable water pump. That's pretty much it. And that's where all the money is coming from. Again, should be in steel. Really should be in steel. Andreas is now making steel. But again, no optimizations in that steel, so difficult to make it profitable. Dermis now only 300k away. And despite his sub building now a 2nd off-world as well, Dermis you're going to clean up this game. Andreas needs 600,000, Dermis only needs 250,000. So another win by the looks of things for the Desperate Housewives team. How are the other games going? Zekris wins in 2A2 as well. So that's another point for them. And Deverucci in 2B2 and PB Head in 2C2. So it's a point each for the Series Cavemen and the A-Team, and it looks like 2 for Desperate Housewives in this round of games, which is going to put them only 1 point behind come the end of the game. About to get the red button, he knows it as well, calls the GG. Just 20k or so short. And it is going to be Dermis who's going to take this game number 2 of today's series. This one on Mars. And Dermis with his 2nd win in 2 games. That's not a bad way to start your tournament participation, is it? Dermis winning this one despite the questionable subsidiary from Adderfield with the 2 off-world markets. And yep, 2 out of 2. Very well played, Dermis. We've seen them both on this channel as well. So go back and check out the VOD if you want to watch game number 1 of that series, which was on series. So let's have a very quick look at the balance sheet and everything else. Dermis was making the most money. You see, most of it he made a bunch in electronics, bunch in glass, bunch in chems, and it was really those optimizations, because all of those 3 things, manufactured goods, So optimization's particularly good for these three commodities right here, because you put the same inputs in and you get more outputs out. And that's what makes the difference. It's efficiency rather than volume that wins usually in off-world trading company. Dermis again using more of the black market than anyone else in the game. Blues was in D levels of debt for a significant amount of time, so he couldn't. And a few patents as well. He got most of the patents, did Dermis, and again that's just one more of the late game advantages that he had, as well as all of the others. So very well played, Dermis. Let's head on into game number 3. And I believe we have Philothanic as well. And yeah, he's streaming Group D. So let's head into one of the Discord channels. There we go. So I'll leave my stream up for the time being just to have another record of this game as well, but Philothanic I think is going to be streaming this game. Indeed he is. And I will be right back. I'm going to grab myself a drink.
All right, everybody. So we're waiting for Tara to get here. We'll be casting game number 2. Right here is the map on my stream as we can see it. Turn off all the streams in the background so I don't hear myself echoing. That'll be a good thing. So this map is before today's wins. are accounted for, and it looks like Team 3 is doing pretty well with 4 more wins. Then 1 win each for blue, yellow, and red. 2 wins for blue.
Okay, I am back. Sorry
Hey,
about that.
Tara.
Okay, yeah. Welcome. I don't know how much of the first 2 games did you see?
I got here like 5 minutes after the last game for the second round.
Okay,
Started.
so the situation is that the green
I did
team.
look at the spreadsheet. I
Yeah.
was just talking about that.
Ah, okay. So the green team is doing very well.
The green team is making a play, catching up. Desperate Housewives catching up to the boosted Pleasure Downs. You are on Desperate Housewives, aren't you?
I am indeed on Desperate
So
Housewives.
you are quite pleased with
I'm
today's
very
results so
pleased.
far.
I am staying entirely neutral, of course, for the purposes of the cast. But yeah, very pleased. Looking forward
That's
to
good.
this one as well.
Yeah, on my stream, I have the map as it was at the start of the day today up for everyone to look while we're waiting.
Ah, let's have a look.
So that's what it looked like before the 4 wins from green, 2 wins from blue, and then
Yeah,
1 win from
wow.
yellow and 1 from red.
So we are at 4 extra for green.
Yeah, plus whatever
With
adjacency or
adjacencies.
bonus points.
Yeah.
Or the location diversity.
Yeah. So yeah, 13 for Pleasure Domes, 12 for Housewives. So a really important set of games here. Who's in which team for this game?
We have Hexapus for the A team, Blues for Boosted Pleasure Domes, Game Slayer for Series Caveman, and Vampirus for Desperate Housewives. And I think this is Vampirus' first match of the tournament.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that it would be an upset if Vampirus were to win. But if Vampirus were to win, and I think she's very capable of winning, that would be absolutely huge, taking a game out of Blues. I'm just trying to see if there are any adjacencies with this particular plot as well. So
everybody in this match is capable of winning the game.
Yep.
I would say
think so.
Blues is the favorite. Probably.
Yep, I think so too.
But then, Game Slayer and Hexapus always can give a good match.
Blues is coming off the back of 2 very disappointing games, though. After the first game where he lost to DT, and the second game, which we just saw, when he lost to Dermis. So it's going to be a little bit difficult for him to bounce back. He does have a possibility this game, though. He's got DT again next game, which is going to be rough.
Yeah, so hopefully Hexapus is getting his internet sorted out.
Is that what the...
I saw earlier he was saying he's having some internet issues today, so he didn't want to host.
Ah.
I'd love it if Twitch would let me scroll over so I could see my chat. Oh, that's because I'm not on the right page. It'd help if I be on the dashboard. Details. Alright, so we're just waiting for the go signal from Morgan.
Well, the Stardock stream has started, so I think he might have neglected
Okay.
to give the go signal.
And we're off.
Okay.
So you just like to tire yourself out by talking before playing.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much.
Give your
It's,
team a little bit of a handicap.
Yeah, apparently we need it. It's been a good day for us so far.
Well, I've not seen this map, so it'll be interesting.
All right,
Hello,
welcome.
everybody.
Oh, sorry, go on. I'll let you do it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to game number 3 of the Asteroid Belt Tournament, Week 2. This time we're featuring Vampirus, Gameslayer, Blues, and Hexapus. I'm Philothanic. Joining me today is Terror Incognita. Terror, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, interesting. So we do have nukes, otherwise that scavenger in the northwest might be looking quite good. Not much aluminum nearby though, so I might see something else instead. There's a couple of interesting options. It might just be the expansive. I think normally we might see a scientist from somebody in the east here. But yeah, there's a couple of good options. I don't expect anyone to found very, very early, which looks like they haven't.
Silicon's too spread out for nomads.
Yep, I think so.
So
it's
I
gonna
don't,
be difficult to make
see
enough silicon.
anybody doing that unless it's like a fourth found. I mean, maybe you
Blues
could
will.
go to the left of that scavenger spot with a nomad for your silicon,
Maybe.
somewhere there.
The
And
more I
then
look
maybe
at it, actually, the more I think Blues might do
Yeah.
that. Blues does like
I
his
didn't, I,
nomad.
didn't, I didn't see that at first. I found up to the left of that silicon crater, and then found right next to that a water aluminum patch to the left of the colony. That's where I'd go as nomad right about now, but no one's done that yet.
Blues with the
That's
robot.
still found, I think.
Yeah.
But Gameslayer, Blues found it first, followed by Gameslayer. So Blues is a robot.
Gameslayer going into a level 1 Geo, which might be the
That is
first time
pretty-
I've ever seen that, at least from a player who's not, it's their first time playing, and they don't know any better. But it is an interesting start. Its power is going to be quite high for a little while, I think. It's a question of whether he can make all of his resources in power for that to pay off.
Right. So Blues did get to HQ2 right away, as did Hexapus, other robot found. Hexapus founding in the area that we were thinking about as a secondary for a nomad. And then Vampirus finishes it off with a expansive just to the south. And nobody went for that nomad.
Yep.
Slightly surprising.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it wasn't great, honestly, and there were nukes. So basically, a single nuke really hampers you in that situation. Even though you have those return claims, there was only really the one, actual productive silicon patch, the sort of northwest patch. Otherwise, you're just running off single highs, and that's never ideal for something when it's your primary upgrade resource. Gameslayer gets to 2 though.
As does Vampirus. Vampirus slightly ahead of Gameslayer. Gameslayer slowed down a little bit because of this geothermal plant, but actually keeping up pace with Vampirus, who founded a more traditional expansive opening.
Yep, the person with the most cash in the game right now, though, is Blues. He just used a bunch of it to buy a goon squad, which I think will be a worthwhile investment come a little bit later in the game. Just going to sit on it for the time being, but he is making money from that, from these reactors and from these 2 steel mills as well. The issue is, though, he's driving the price of power up quite a long way, and Gameslayer in a really strong position to benefit from that right now. He doesn't have any steel, Gameslayer, but he does have all of that power money coming in, and he's going to have some food money as well very soon.
You have to wonder if this is a map the Gameslayer's team had for practice, and that might explain the geothermal start, because that is a rather odd start to just bet on the power price rising.
That's
it's not
true.
even a power colony.
Yeah, and I mean, it looks like it is going to pay off. I mean, there were a couple of signs maybe that would happen. The electrolysis reactors were quite good in the early game, and people were going to be making steel as well. Unless people dropped Nomad, it was always going to be steel. So
Right. I mean, it is a bit of a risk to go geothermal first when you're the second player to found.
yeah, it is. It definitely is.
That's why I'm wondering if this was in fact the map seed that they had. But we do have the first black market attack by, who was it on to?
It was Hexapus on the metal mine, the mutiny.
Yes,
So,
Vampirus' metal mine.
Yeah, so he's going to get adjacency from that for a long time, which is going to work out very well for him. Very valuable aluminum right now.
And then a freeze on Gameslayer's farms. He has a goon on one of them, so only 2 will be knocked offline.
And Hexapus suddenly making a lot of money. He won that tile auction, which is going to be a good investment for the late game. And he's also making power money as well. He was making power money before he won that auction, but also making a bunch of other money too, because he's got those steel mills going up. Going to get 2 more steel mills as well now, as well as the 2 reactors that he has. So going to be, again, chewing through that debt very, very shortly and making even more power money.
Yeah, Hexapus definitely quite well set up right now. HQ3, 25k on hand. Blues is lagging a little bit in the cash department on hand, but a large part because Blues needs to pay through his debt, and that mutiny on the wind turbine not going to help. A very good guess by Hexapus, guessing correctly that the closer wind turbine would not be gooned. There are no spies.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting choice, though, to go into those two wind turbines. I mean, again, the demand for power is very high, but Blue's really not in a position where he can make any sort of power money at all anytime soon, so that is just to control his debt. So I guess he won't mind the mutiny too much. I mean, it'll mean that he has, what, 20 or 30k more debt by the time that it ends, but that won't matter a huge amount. It doesn't really affect his actual cash flow, which is what's really important at this point in the game.
Yeah, I mean, well, what it does do is it prevents Gameslayer and Hexapus from making as much power money, assuming that it didn't get mutinied out by Hexapus. We do have some more attacks on Gameslayer. Gameslayer was moving into a patent lab. It got frozen. He decides to move into the same patent lab somewhere else. And Blues takes back his wind turbine. Vampires also just made it to HQ3. She has 3 more claims to put down. Let's see, what will she use them for? Moving into some glass kilns.
Yeah, we haven't talked about Vampirus a whole lot, but she is making a lot of steel. As those 2 pairs, doesn't have the iron to support it right now, but had a little bit stockpiled away, so I imagine she'll transition away from 2 of these steel mills quite soon into probably some life support.
A robotics HQ has been upgraded.
Hexapus in a patent lab, moving on to carbon scrubbing. Gameslayer's patent lab is researching superconductor. Gameslayer has that geotherm connected right next to his base. He wants to kill power and make as much power money as possible for himself.
Yep, I think I prefer Gameslayer's choice. Hexapus going for that carbon scrubbing, which is a very long-term play. I mean, he is in a position where he can go for that sort of long-term play, but it's going to be a long time before that pays off.
Gameslayer deciding not to bid that geothermal borehole up very much.
Yeah, well, he could have made extra power, but at the same time, he wouldn't have been using that power to make cash, which is what he's doing right now. So it does make sense from his perspective not to go for that. He won't have wanted to see that, though, because I imagine that he would have gone for that after Superconductor if he'd had the option to do so.
Yes. On the bright side, Blues did win the geothermal borehole, and there is no place for Blues to use it.
Nope. He's going to be... It's 14k that he just used to deny Gameslayer that patent, which... I guess that's okay. Again, he's not in a huge amount of trouble in terms of debt.
First nuke of the game, Soul 3, a little bit late. Gameslayer nuking Hexapus's Silicon, correctly guessing that it was not defended. And Blues blowing up Gameslayer's patent lab.
Very rude. Hexapus, the clear leader right now, though, has basically no debt at all. As HQ4, and the dust storm won't help him with all of these solar panels down, but even so, he has a cash lead. Vampirus, that's a slightly risky upgrade from Vampirus, particularly in the amount of debt that she's in. Gameslayer is 66% of the way, or was 66% of the way towards being able to buy her out. So in league with somebody else, he could have taken her down, but does get away with it, at least for the time being.
Yeah, well, a lot of Gameslayer's cash is in these patents. He's going for a patent rush. Same with Hexapus. My question is, when is Blues going to shift his attention from attacking Gameslayer to attacking Hexapus? 'Cause right now, Blues might be attacking Gameslayer because Gameslayer's right next door. It's really easy to see what he's doing. Might be forgetting and not noticing that Hexapus has the same amount of cash as Gameslayer, but a level ahead.
Yeah, I mean, he is a robot compared to Gameslayer's expansive, and I wonder how much those claims are going to matter later on in the game, but it does look, honestly, like a little bit like an off-world game, this one. The off-world price is fairly high, 470 for food. That's only going to go up, so it's going to be quite a valuable game to be launching off-world, although there are no holograms. Although there are no spies, so...
No holograms, no spies. If you're going to go for off-world, you don't want to start tossing that dynamite around. Just that way it's not cheap for someone to toss back at your off-world market, but they're also power surges and mutinies, so plenty of items to target down your off-world. The person who goes into an off-world first is going to have a lot of black market raining down on them.
Yep. And I wonder when we're going to see somebody prioritizing thinking machines.
Sold.
Well,
gonna be
Vampirus
valuable.
recognize that Hexapus is the one to be worried about, although Blue's all of a sudden has 84k cash on hand. Hexapus has the patent advantage, carbon scrubbing and slant drilling. Blues has the cash advantage for everyone who's on HQ4.
Yeah, where did he get all that money from? Was that from a carbon short?
The black market is
I wonder if he knew that carbon short was coming. Or is he just... I guess he's just making chems and bringing carbon in? I guess that might be why.
He's brought carbon in the entire game, and other than using it for his wind turbines, he has not sold any of it down, I don't think.
Oh, so Vampirus building those 3 wind turbines. That was what the spike was in that case.
market is online.
So Vampirus giving a whole bunch of money to Blues there. Putting those 3 very expensive wind turbines down, which does feel a little bit like a mistake. They may have been better as solar panels, particularly with that silicon coming in.
Yeah, I'm not sure when those wind turbines went down. I didn't quite see, but power's been on its way down for a long time, ever since GameSlayer researched superconductor. So definitely a little bit of an overcommitment. We do have Blues getting nuked out and frozen. People realizing that Blues is HQ5 with a lot of cash on hand.
Yep,
We've had a
HQ5.
couple of lead shifts in this game so far. Kind of hard to predict at the moment who's going to come out ahead at the end, even though it's already Soul 5.
GameSlayer and Vampirus both in optimization centers too. So that is another late game investment that both of those 2 players are going to be going for. Vampirus with the silicon and glass optimizations so far.
Moving into food,
Blues though, putting
GameSlayer
up-
a little bit further behind, just starting on oxygen.
Is chaotic.
Yep, he is a little bit. So Blues going up, putting this carbon short in for this hacker array, which is going to be interesting. He does have a lot of carbon. Is anyone else bringing... Nobody else is bringing in any carbon at all. So this might be a very, very profitable endeavor for him indeed. That is a lot of money that he has tied up in carbon right now, and it's going to get even bigger.
Blues continues to get hit by the rain of the nukes. We do have all players on HQ5 except for Vampirus, who is still struggling just a little bit. HQ4, $98,000 in debt. Needs an additional 80k before she can upgrade most of that in steel, which she was in a lot of it, and then transitioned out of it. So maybe a overreaction to that iron price.
Yeah, I mean, she does have those 2 steel mills, but yeah, and there's a steel surplus coming in as well from Hexapus. Hexapus is hacking steel down, because he doesn't really have the ability to make too much of it, and I wonder whether that's with an eye towards an off-world market as well for Hexapus, because that's the only way really that an off-world is affordable for him at this point.
Could
Off-world...
be for the off-world. Hexapus could also be looking at Blues quadruple steel mills and thinking that's making way too much money. Without spies, there's really no way for Hexapus to know that one of them is a hacker array unless he was very much paying attention. And this is also a game where there are no network viruses. There's really no way to reveal what's a hacker array if you're not looking at it. So if you see this transition here, you know something's fishy going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
Oh
that,
my goodness, Blues is going to make so much money from this carbon short. I'm just going to watch this tick up.
Those profits climb.
So his carbon was worth $65,000 when this started, and it just now when he sold down was worth $90,000. So just in that half of the short, it was $25,000 that he made. So that's a lot of money.
Shortly.
It is. Blues has a sizable cash advantage. The question is, so GameSlayer, it continues to move into more optimizations, double oxygen, 1 glass. Hexapus now has an optimization center up, continuing to hack. Where is Hexapus's hacker array? Somewhere
It's
hiding
at the
here on me.
colony. It's at the colony, surrounded by
there we go.
warehouses.
Chemical shortage. Hexapus also has a Pleasure Dome, 397. Quite nice.
Very good Pleasure Dome indeed. Has virtual reality to go with that. I'm very surprised we haven't seen thinking machines from anyone just yet. Again, Offworld's looking like they're going to be quite good this game.
Blues just lost a lot of money, and I'm not sure where it went. He had like $120,000, then he went all the way down to 87.
Did he finish a patent? He's building an optimization center.
I mean, an optimization center cost 18K, so that doesn't explain all of it. So I'm not entirely sure what happened there.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Made it back up, and Gameslayer is in the lead on cash, building an off-world.
Yeah, well, there it
market.
is. We said that Offworlds are going to be a big deal, and I wonder how much he's going to regret not going into that thinking machines a little bit earlier. And Blues
Well,
again.
right now,
Yep, Blues with the dynamite. Does bounce, of course, but that's going to be an expensive one to replace for Gameslayer.
Thinking Machines is still open. And there
Yeah.
are no patent labs on the map right now.
Although Hexapus does look like he has a patent lab from Gameslayer's perspective, so I wonder if that's influencing his decision not to go into a patent lab here and to go for that thinking machines.
Vampirus is still lagging behind at HQ4. 24K to go to the upgrade. I think she has to take it to go to HQ5 and ignore the fact that multiple people... Well, she has defended her stock, so
Yeah.
it's not that big of an issue. Hexapus is buying into themselves. Into himself, I should say. Getting targeted by Vampirus on a power surge. Might be the wrong target there by Vampirus.
Yeah, Vampirus has been a little bit wayward with some of these power surges, although I do have to give her credit for hitting the hacker array of Blues a moment ago, and that single thing by itself might have been enough to really make Blues struggle in this game. He doesn't really have too much going on in the late game. He is starting to optimize now with that chem production, but those optimizations have been lagging behind quite a bit in this game. He's behind Gameslayer in terms of the off-world race, he's behind Hexapus in terms of the stock race as well. So he's got some catching up to do, even with that cash lead.
Hexapus has 2 hacker arrays down right now. I just want to point out, both of them are being unused. 2 Pleasure Domes. Those Pleasure Domes are making some really good money. I'm not sure anybody has recognized that, although...
Yeah, they have.
Gameslayer's like, yeah, let's, Blues may be attacking me, but I'm gonna blow up that Pleasure Dome.
So yeah, Gameslayer elected, actually had that goon that he's got in his inventory, or that he just put on the off-world right now, had it for a long time, decided not to use it just now, before the dynamite came down, so maybe a little bit difficult there. He might have made just a crucial error at a bad time there. Blues, though, deciding that he really needs to be in an off-world market as well as his hacker array, as well as his optimization center. He's going for that off-world. He has it gooned already.
Gameslayer moving into quadruple solar panels. Those are going to go online, and he's going to very quickly pay through all of his debt, making 2.6K a second.
Ooh.
Hexapus
Oh,
is
and
going
the
to
surplus.
buy in the Gameslayer.
Don't actually know if that was a random power surplus, but it's going to hurt Gameslayer an awful lot.
Blues was doing an energy shortage.
An energy shortage?
Wait, or was it surplus?
Oh,
Hang on,
it
let
was
me
a
check.
surplus, so it was Blues. Yeah, absolutely. So Blues was one step ahead of that transition that Gameslayer made.
Although Blues is moving into a couple wind turbines himself. A little bit late.
Yeah, that seems
So
like
that's
a major
curious.
error. Yeah.
And perhaps a small mistake on Blues' part.
Yeah, they do finish, so he did pay for those wind turbines, even as power falls all the way through the floor.
Yeah, so we point out these small mistakes because in a game of off-world trading company with high-level players like this game, those small mistakes can be the difference between winning and losing a game. We're not just being nitpicky
Hexapus,
for the
though,
sake of being nitpicky.
Hexapus going into Gameslayer, which seems like a sensible move. Gameslayer does have that off-world, although it just got blown up again by Hexapus, so again, that target on his back is very real.
Thinking Machines is still there. You can still build that patent lab and pick it up. Chems are $88. I think it would pay for itself. Even now.
It's extraordinary, isn't it, that no one decided to go for thinking machines this game, despite two players going straight into off-world markets.
And 43k profit on the launches on food, despite it being $150. There it gets blown up again.
Yep, Hex is
How much is
all
that
over
repair cost? 50k.
It's a lot of money. That electronics
Yeah,
price.
Build that patent lab, build thinking machines, then repair it. Please. Nope, we're just going to repair it.
And again,
No.
there's absolutely no way that he can afford to goon it at this point. 70k to goon it is too much money. And,
Yeah, I think that Offworld, unfortunately, has pushed Gameslayer out of contention. Vampirus does have more cash on hand, also has more... Well, nope, Gameslayer actually has the advantage in terms of optimizations, but Hexapus only needs, what is it, 429k, has almost 200 himself, so 230k to go before Hexapus will take out Gameslayer.
I think that
Blue
money's
wisely going to defend himself.
that's going to go up a little bit, because I think Gameslayer is going to be able to retaliate a little bit on Hexapus at some point. He's rebuilding that off-world, but two players, both Blues and Hexapus, have mutinies stored up. So I wonder, and Vampirus does as well, so I wonder if we're going to see a big mutiny battle on this off-world very shortly indeed, even without any dynamites.
I like Vampirus' offload position at the colony, double module warehouse adjacency, and a goon.
Yep, wow. That's pretty good timing on that as well. Does need to buy her own stock though. That will help her an awful
Everybody
lot.
is fixated on Gameslayer's offload despite Blues moving into his second.
Here comes the mutiny battle. There's so many mutinies stored up. It's so... it's absolutely incredible that everyone's just not pulling the trigger on those mutinies. Who has
Blues
it right
currently...
now?
Blues...
Blues has it right now.
Yes, that's where the second offload came from. I said he was constructing another one. My mistake. Did not keep up with the mutiny battle.
Hexapus is almost there though. Another, what is it, another 70,000 he needs? Gameslayer's still some way short. He could buy into Hexapus and delay that a little bit, but again, how beneficial is that going to be? It's only going to delay the inevitable.
Well, depends on if Gameslayer has identified any players, which players he thinks maybe for the meta game at this point, whether he should buy into anyone. He's going to buy into Vampirus because Vampirus has cheap stock. Actually,
wow.
Gameslayer can make the buy in Vampirus very soon, 98% of the way there.
Yeah, he can. That's
one way to keep yourself in the game perhaps a little bit longer, get an instant stock boost. Gameslayer just needs to cancel this optimization.
yeah, he's going to get it done.
There he goes. There's the buy. All of a sudden, Gameslayer costs a lot more money to pick up.
Although Hexapus still only needs just over 200,000. It's not a lot of money for him to make at this point in the game. He has those pleasure domes. He doesn't have a whole lot else, honestly. He's got some optimizations, he's got some electronics production, but none of those are any good right now. So really his income is not that high. He doesn't have an off-world market, mutinied or otherwise, and really he's going to be struggling to make money. And actually Blues at this point is going to have a lot of money in his bank account very soon indeed. With those two off-worlds, with those optimizations, he's also making food, he's got water as well nearby. Blues might just be the dark horse in this game.
Yeah, it's very
Oh, here's the mutiny battle.
very close. And then the question is with the Blues is right now is Blues is sitting on a lot of cash, and when is he going to throw that cash around? He is 67% of the way of the buy onto Hexapus right now.
And yeah, it's a question of timing, isn't it? It's whether he can get in on Hexapus before Hexapus pulls the trigger on Gameslayer, before that stock becomes a whole bunch more expensive.
Yes, ideally you want to buy some into Hexapus, but you also don't want to buy into Hexapus and then have Hexapus panic buy into you.
Yeah.
So it is very, very interesting. Game Slayer, unfortunately, needs 870k to buy Hexapus, has 300k. Hexapus is 85% of the way in Game Slayer. I don't think it's going to happen. Game Slayer should have been buying into Hexapus already to keep on to drive Game Slayer's stock price up.
Just bought a 70k goon as well for that off-world market, which probably is going to be worth it. There are dynamites still in the game. There are mutinies
Well, it
for
might be worth
70k,
it
which
for
are definitely
Hexapus.
worth
Game
it.
Slayer's going to start buying in on Hexapus, pushing Blues ever closer to the buyout of Hexapus, which will leave a very interesting conundrum for Blues. Do
Blues
you
has it. Blues has it
take
right
out
now.
Hexapus now and then
Yep, I think you
get
do.
5 stocks in the Game Slayer?
Yep, I think you do.
That-
I think you do it right now.
He's going to do it. They're going to go for the
Buy
split.
his own
No,
stock as well.
Hexapus
Hexapus
gets
pulls the
it.
trigger first, but is that going to be enough? So Hexapus with the 2 subsidiaries, he's got Vampirus and Gameslayer. They're both going to be profitable soon. But Blues has the stock lead. He has the stock advantage. He's got 5 in Hexapus right now. He's going to sell out of himself just to get a little bit more cash as his stock value tanks in price because of all the debt that he's in. Does he have enough? That's
Wow.
the question. Hexapus only needs 550,000.
What a finish to this game. Can Hexapus get the lead? Who still needs another, as you said, 400,000 Hexapus?
Well, if he sells out of himself, he needs just over 300,000, and Hexapus now needs about 500,000. So I wonder if Blues has the income that he thinks he can. He thinks he can
Oh, it's gonna be
out-earn Hexapus in the long
close.
term. Hexapus is making so much money from his subs, though. Blues really has to sell his own stocks before Hexapus can buy it, I think.
Yes, yeah. This is quite the close finish. I think, as we were talking about, this was Game Slayer's game to win if he researched thinking machines with the patent lab.
Yep. Thinking Machines is the
It's
big
on
regret
how
for all of our players. It's still not been taken at this point in the game. At this point in a game where off-worlds have featured very heavily.
It looks like Hexapus percentage on Blues is rising faster than
Yep.
Blues percentage on Hexapus. Hexapus should win the game. It looks like, barring any major mistakes, Blues does not have a hacker array, doesn't have anything other than this single off-world, which is pulling in 66k every 60 seconds.
And
I don't think that's going to be enough.
No, it's definitely not. And I wonder, and it's so rare, and far be it for me to criticize Blues for stock play, but he did have a window in which he could have shift-bought Hexapus. And I wonder if he's regretting not doing that right now. That
It
was his
could be.
window to win the game. He would have got Vampirus for absolutely free. He would have got 5 stocks in Game Slayer. He would have been in an excellent position to clean up this game. But as it is, Hexapus takes it.
Yes. Now, it could be. I wasn't looking at Blues at that point in time. That red button might not have showed up if Blues was continuing to auto-launch off-world markets. So he really would have had to been on the ball for that. And often, Game Slayer didn't get a single off-world launch off. Thinking Machines is still there.
Thinking Machines
And-
would have been good.
It cost 9.6k to buy right now. Now, Chemicals, I think, was low the entire second half of the game, if I'm not mistaken. Just look at the resource, except for this little spike here when it was being hacked by Hexapus. And the chemical prices were not that bad. Definitely would have paid themselves. But anyway, back to the Blues Hexapus thing.
Yeah, so Blues said that he wouldn't have... buying you wouldn't have let me win, says Blues. I'm not sure about that. I mean, it was a long time ago, and a lot happened since then, but I feel with that like, Vampirus was making a lot of money at the end of that game. Really a lot of money at the end of that game for Hexapus. And of course, Blues with the stock price, with the free subsidiary, with the 5 stocks in Game Slayer as well. I feel like probably that would have been enough of a stock bump to put Game Slayer out of reach. and probably to win the game from Blues. I'm not sure about that though.
We had a very close game as it was now at the end, just with Hexbus coming in with that sub-income. It's kind of hard to do the counterfactual from like 2 souls ago. If Blues did buy Hexbus, I think we would have had another really close game. I think it would have been closer. Gameslayer and Blues would split Vampirus.
Oh,
Blues
in
would have the
fact.
advantage in
Yeah.
Gameslayer's subs.
Yeah.
So it would have been Gameslayer's
Yeah. I think
2
that was...
off-worlds versus Blues 1 off-world.
Yeah, so Blues wouldn't have got Vampirus, of course, because Vampirus was Gameslayer's sub, and Gameslayer would still have been in the game. So that's my mistake. So maybe that makes it so that the Blues wouldn't have had the income that he needed to get Gameslayer after that. It would have been... he probably had more of a chance to win in that case just by hoarding his cash.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, a very, very well played game by all of our players, except for a few mistakes, which we did harp on the entire game. And despite those mistakes, at the end of the game, it was still almost anyone's to win. Good job by Hexapus picking out another win for the A team, who is still lagging behind in the overall tournament standings.
Yep, and what happened in the other games? DT won in 2C3. So it's another point for the green team, Desperate Housewives. Not sure about 2B3 yet, that one's still ongoing. But Trap Pingvin wins for a much needed win for the boosted Pleasure Domes, who now seems to be tied between Desperate Housewives and boosted Pleasure Domes. 16 points apiece. Oh, Polina wins per game as well. So another 2-point haul for the green team.
18 points, including all of the bonuses. Desperate Housewives a slight lead over Boosted Pleasure Domes. The A team brought themselves back in the tournament. They have 7 points, so if they win a couple games of this last one and then do well the next 2 weeks, they are right back in it. Series Cavemen, unfortunately, still only sitting back with 3 wins.
Well, speaking of which, I'm going to do my best to get a point on the board for Desperate Housewives in this next game, so I'm going to sign off for now on the stream
Best
at least.
of luck from a
you very
strictly
much.
neutral standpoint.
Okay, thank you very much. Nice to cast with you, and
Yes.
speak to you soon.
Have a good match.
Thank you. Bye.
All right.
All right. So I'm going to go in. I don't think I'm going to stream my game. Sorry, everyone. But head on over to Philothanic's channel for that game. Head on over to the Stardock channel for their game as well. That's Zoltar and Morgan casting there. Philothanic's going to cast, I think, by himself. I'm not sure whether he's going to get anyone for his game. But everyone who's been watching my stream, hope it was entertaining. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.